Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about planning issues for both district councils, the authority areas, and particularly about Science Vale, Oxford, which is some changes that have been going on. I'm Adrian Duffield, I'm the head of planning for the two district councils, and we'll take you through a variety of things this morning. First of all, perhaps a refresher for some of you, you may not know, you may do. What is Science Vale? Lots of people may ask this, and just a very useful summary there in terms of it's generally a partnership between private and public sector across southern Oxfordshire, and you can see there the aim about achieving a global hotspot to make the area, in terms of enterprise zone, innovation, science, high technology, and the application of knowledge. That's the sort of fundamental vision for the area. In terms of the area, it is not defined. It is a concept, effectively. It ranges from Culham up in the district in South Oxfordshire through to Harwell, and then down to Harwell Oxford, that is in Milton Park, but also goes as far over to Grove Technology Park, and includes the communities of both Grove, Wantage and Didcot. And Didcot is very much seen as the hub to the centre of the Science Vale area. It's recognised in terms of Science Vale as one of the largest science clusters in the UK, and that's really important for the economy of the UK as well as locally. It offers scientific facilities, including the Diamond Light, which I'm sure you're aware of. The synchrotron is really important in terms of some unique international experiments that are going on there. But also there is the Rutherford Appleton Laboratories and also the Culham Centre for Fusion and Energy, which again is really important in terms of some international experiments and research that's going on. The companies in the area have real opportunities to use these facilities and benefit from being at the heart of this dynamic and innovative environment. There is, as I said, world-class research, and we have the Science Technology Facilities Council, the European Space Agency, and also the Medical Research Council are located in this area. Some real fundamental companies that can make a difference to the economy and in terms of science technology. There are a number of growing businesses in strength in terms of space, cryogenics, clean energy, and again these are really important to some of the unique experiments that are going on in the area. And we have some interesting companies that are working together, networking in the area, and they have a phenomenal skilled workforce, which is really important to attract to the jobs in the area, but also there are a phenomenal number of new businesses that are spinning off from this research that's going on. The key thing here is about high-value jobs, bringing a phenomenal amount of income to the local area, which is really important to our local economy, but also the government recognised that some international significance in terms of or national significance in terms of our economy as well. The government are themselves investing millions within this area. So Science Vale is really important for the district councils, and it's important for the Oxfordshire itself, as well as the country in terms of the economy. Recognising the advantages of Science Vale, the government did actually identify, following a submission by the Local Enterprise Partnership in 2011, to designate an enterprise zone within our area. That's located at Milton Park, and you can see there within the outline site there are the blue areas that identify the actual enterprise zone itself in Milton Park, but also at Harwell, Oxford. Again, really important in terms of the advantages of an enterprise zone, which can give both relaxation in planning, and I'll come on to that in a minute in a bit more detail. Will provide super fast broadband and also lower taxes. New businesses that are eligible for business rate discount can be up to £55,000 per year, assuming that's over a 5-year period, and that's obviously assuming they do locate in the enterprise zone. I mentioned earlier about relaxation within the enterprise zone, and one particular area we've worked very closely with MEPC at Milton Park to produce a local development order. Effectively, this means there's a relaxation in planning. Permitted development, you may know in terms of residential applications, you can build a porch, for example, without coming to the authority for planning permission. In this case, this is from the business point of view. We have developed this order, a local development order, that sets out basic criteria, which means there can be a change of use. You can build certain height buildings and floor space up to a maximum capacity without coming to the local authority for planning permission. And this is a real incentive from businesses, as I understand it, and certainly from MEPC in terms of their investment in time and effort in producing the local development order, as an incentive for people to come and work within the enterprise zone and within that particular park. It reduces that barrier, the perceived barrier that exists, that planning takes a long time to go through the process. That is completely taken away, and business there can count that out and therefore get on site very quickly. You'll probably be aware that opposite the Milton interchange, the petrol station, there's some physical works going on, which is part of the MEPC site, and part of that is linked to the local development order in terms of its success. We're starting now to see the fruits of the work undertaken. When we adopted it last year, 2013, nothing much happened to begin with, but that's starting now to come through, and you can start to see some building works going ahead which haven't required planning permission directly. So now moving on to policy, local plan policy, and in particular I'll start off with the South Oxfordshire Core Strategy, which we adopted in 2012. Key elements in the document, the policy document, which is plan-led, is identifying that Didcot, as it said there, with a major centre within southern Oxfordshire, playing a key role in the Science Vale area. I think what's fundamental here is recognising Didcot. It can be regenerated, can bring forward a lot of regeneration schemes and investment within the area, and in particular you'll see opposite the railway station, we've called the Gateway site, is a real opportunity for redevelopment. Real frontage and entrance into Didcot, but also into Science Vale off the main London-Bristol railway line. Again, we were trying to change that to make it really inviting, a complete different concept in terms of buildings and size, modern, efficient, and very impressive in terms of the first impressions of people arriving in the area. We're also working on the Phase 2 Orchard Centre in Didcot Town Centre. Again, we've done Phase 1, which has already regenerated and been very successful, and we're looking to continue that through with Phase 2 in due course. Also part of the local plan, we've identified some housing sites. This is about making sure that we have sufficient houses and people to live locally to the employment areas of Milton Park, Cullen and Harwell, Oxford. And again, to give you a bit of a feel for that, around the area we've identified land to the northeast of Didcot for some 2,000 houses. Again, in terms of the facilities at that site, making sure it's a unique neighbourhood, something that finds very attractive to the local area. We ensure we will master plan the site, including things like schools, primary school, secondary school will be located there, along with potential facilities in terms of open space for the local community. But also you'll see on the plan there, on the eastern side or to your right, Lady Grove East, which has been a site for some time, negotiating with the landowner to bring forward the housing site, and also the completion of the link road around Didcot. Again, that's very important, and we're working very hard to try and bring that forward as soon as we can. You'll be aware, I think David mentioned earlier on, about Great Western Park, one of the biggest sites in the southeast and even perhaps England or UK, where there is development actually undertaken. The building rates aren't perhaps the ones we want to see at this time, but bear in mind we are coming out of recession. They are certainly building a number of houses, and they're selling on a weekly basis. Again, really important, recognising that actually in this area, recession hasn't been as hard hit as perhaps has been in other areas. Also recognising the plan, very important in the balance between ensuring there's appropriate housing of different sizes, from the executive houses down to the 2-bed, 1-bed flats, etc., to ensure we've got the range of people that can support and work in the local employment centres, the business parks, and as I mentioned earlier on, with the high value jobs, people are looking for the executive homes, and it's balancing that with the ordinary jobs that exist that are really important to make sure a town and a business park can actually function. Thinking about the future in terms of the local plan, although we only adopted it in 2012, I'm afraid life moves on, nothing stands still these days, and we have been undertaking maybe where across the whole county what's called a strategic housing market assessment. That's really looking about what is housing need. And that will come out. We haven't got the final public document at the moment. Hopefully the next month or so we'll have that, and we'll be issuing that. And we believe that will have an impact in terms of changing the requirements, the evidence that sits for our local plan. And therefore we recognise we're not going to stand still. We have to then start a review of the local plan. Frustrating, but actually a reality. We have to move on with the times. So that's something to be aware of over the next year or so, that we'll be starting to look at reviewing our plan. But also, really important, in terms of the Didcot area, there's a phenomenal amount of new development, new activity going on, and it's important we try and coordinate that. And I'll come back to this a little bit later on, but we're going to be producing what's called a Science Vale Area Action Plan, jointly with the Vale of Whitehorse, so the two councils working very closely together to produce something, again, recognising the importance of cohesive working between the two councils and actually on the ground to make sure we can deliver the housing, employment, and the appropriate infrastructure that goes to support that employment and housing areas. Moving now then to the Vale of White Horse and their local plan. This is a real opportune moment at the present time. Their plan particularly focuses on housing, employment and service facilities within the Science Vale area. That's a real focus for the plan, and I'll show you a little map in a minute as indicating where a lot of the housing and employment areas are. We're literally out for consultation at the present time on additional housing sites. I mentioned just now about the strategic housing market assessment. The Vale of White Horse have got their figure for their particular district, and they're working with that number, that housing need number, and have gone out for consultation with the community about that additional housing for the district. That started literally last Friday into the 4th of April, and please do have a look at our website. There's also an information leaflet around that you can have a look at. There's a really helpful summary about what's happening in the area. There's also got the plans that you'll see that I'll show shortly laid out on the documentation, so really helpful to have a look and see what's going on. And please do have a look at it, complete it in terms of comments back to us. It'll be really helpful to get your views on that. In terms of the Science Vale area, again, really important from the point of view of having a Science Vale action plan. Again, mentioned with us working from the Vale with the South Oxfordshire District Council, and also is recognising the balance between, again, the housing and the employment, how important it is to get it right with all the infrastructure that goes with that. I mentioned earlier that there's a plan for the southeast quadrant, I suppose, of the Vale that identifies some of these new housing sites, employment sites, and the importance of how they work together, supported by appropriate infrastructure. Really quite small scale from your point of view on the little leaflet, you better look at some of the details, but identifying some of the new housing sites in terms of the potential for new housing in those areas, and how they work very closely with some of the employment. So people potentially, this is about sustainable developments, how people can live and literally walk to work or cycle to work. Something we must make sure we give people the opportunity to have that real opportunity. As a sort of summary of infrastructure across the district, again, this is in your leaflet, not that clear, I'm afraid, to read some of the text there, but this is setting out not only some of the housing sites that's been proposed in the consultation document, but also the importance of infrastructure that will support that. In particular, it's called the Science Bridge, which is the Didcot Power Station, which you know the towers are coming down probably in the springtime, late spring. The start of that being redeveloped for employment and other sort of similar uses. Again, it's important to get access over the railway line, over the main road, into the Didcot A Power Station site to ensure it is well serviced. In addition, roads are looking from the Great Western Park, for example, up to the A417, I think it is. Again, that's an important link to getting people from Didcot over until the Harwell campus. And new slips, for example, on the Chiltern interchange, again, is all part of the important infrastructure within the area. These are set out on the plan. There's a massive amount of investment. I'll come back a little bit more in terms of the amount of money that's been put forward and secured already towards some of this infrastructure. I mentioned earlier about the Science Vale Area Action Plan and what it is, what it will do. Fundamental, as I say, a policy-led delivery tool. Really important to try and get that coordination across the two administrative boundaries to make sure we are delivering the right housing at the right time. We are making sure the employment sites are serviced and appropriate in terms of their development, and also recognising how that balance between the two in terms of forming sustainable communities. Again, really important, the opportunity for people to cycle to work. Part of the work also, there's a lot of work going on in terms of planning within the area, but also we're looking at development of what's called the Science Transit between Oxford and this area through the railway line and buses up to Harwell, Oxford. Literally looking at the extension of the railway line between Didcot and Oxford to opportunities of four lines, I should say, rather than the two, to allow passing points and therefore regular stopping as well as the fast trains to come right through and stopping at Didcot. So again, that's work that we're working on. This will help try and coordinate that part of the process. It also helps give confidence to the businesses like yourselves and international businesses that come into the area to see actually we are putting in place the infrastructure to make sure it is a successful area. We are thinking about where people need to live and how they get to work. Again, that's really important with the appropriate schools. European schools and international schools are also relevant for people from Europe that come in to work in our particular area. So in terms of the housing numbers, to give you some sort of feel what we're looking at, we're looking in terms of the Vale at the moment. This is 2011 to 2031. This is reflecting the strategic housing market assessment, looking at over 20,000 houses over that plan period of 20 years. At South, which is the current local plan, based on the South East plan that's now being abolished, so different housing evidence numbers here, we're looking at 11,500 houses. Once we have the the strategic housing market assessment outputs, we'll be looking about what that housing need, what difference that will be. In reality, across the Science Vale area, we're looking at some 16,000 houses. That's a lot of houses, but really important to make sure that we're successful in terms of the economy for the area. And you can see I've listed out there some indications of somewhere where, through the emerging Vale of Wight Horse plan, local plan, where those sites are being suggested for housing. Likewise then, across the two districts, a bit of a summary about some sites that are already committed by both the Vale of Whitehorse and South Oxfordshire. Great Western Park is currently under construction, as you know. Site at Didcot North East has been allocated. Lady Grove East has been allocated. Grove Airfield went to committee just before Christmas with a resolution to grant. And literally last week, Crab Hill, which is for 1,500 houses, east of Wantage, also was at committee and resolved to approve. So working on those, hopefully get those decisions out in the springtime. They're fundamental again to providing the right houses in this location. In terms of businesses, some 120 plus hectares of employment land available in the area, within Science Vale in particular. And we're looking at, for example, at the Didcot A power station, there's potentially 58 hectares there, but actually we're looking for 29 hectares at this stage in terms of development for employment and similar type uses. I've got up there the potential of 14,000 jobs. Actually, it's twice that amount in reality, or nearest damn it, in terms of the current review we've done with the Strategic Housing Market Assessment, and also in terms of the Strategic Economic Plan that the Local Enterprise Partnership are leading on. That's identifying a lot more jobs in the area and the potential for jobs in our area, and again, that's why the housing numbers are important to support the number of jobs that are coming forward. In terms of retail, Didcot in particular, but also relevant to what's happening in Wantage town centre, we're looking at a variety of town uses. The A1 to A5, sorry, that planning jargon, apologise for that. That's your normal retail, supermarket, fashion stores, through to your cafes, bars and pubs. That's important to get that mixture of activities within town centres, and working very closely, as Suzanne mentioned earlier on, with our economic development team to make sure we are looking at the evening economy and the changing face of our retail high street. It's not just about shops in the town centre, it's a shop window and how we can work with the click and collect type working that we currently all live with. I mentioned about Oxford, the Orchard Centre, phase 2, and also we have a supermarket at Great Western Park that's being proposed, whether the size is something that's going to be compatible with the town centre, not to undermine the town centre. Then, in terms of Didcot Town, I mentioned about regeneration, how really important that is, and focusing particularly about the area around the railway station. You'll be aware already works are undertaken on the forecourt. That's going ahead, been moving for some time now. But also there's real opportunities, say, opposite, but also in the Broadway, and picking up in terms of the Orchard Centre. We have a particular supplementary planning document which focuses on the detail that's required for improvements and principles for new development in the area. So again, a lot of activities going on. I mentioned earlier again about infrastructure, how important, and the sort of costs that we're securing for new infrastructure in the area. You'll be aware that the Milton interchange, that what we are putting in at what's called a hamburger junction to allow people coming from Didcot up to the A34 going north. There'll be a sweep round road under the bridge. That's costing a significant amount of money in terms of millions of pounds, along with the Chiltern slips. That will be costing something in the region of £20 million. We've got £11 million for the Harwell Link Road, taking people from Didcot into into Harwell, Oxford. I also mentioned about the variety of highway works undertaken around the Harwell area. Highway works around the Harwell area. For example, the Rostock roundabout, Featherbed Lane, as examples where there's some significant amount of money being put in and secured for those road improvements. In terms of the Science Bridge, that's the access to the Didcot power station, some £35 million estimated at this stage. Details, we haven't yet secured that amount of money, but the idea we will be getting from new development, contributions from housing and employment uses towards these road schemes. But also we're getting grant money from the government, also the LAP, so the Local Enterprise Partnership, is able to put forward some funding. We've secured some money again towards this infrastructure, which is crucial for the area. I mentioned about education, the importance in terms of primary schools, secondary school, but also in Great Western Park we're working towards a University Technical College, which is again allowing and working with the businesses in the local area to make sure that people that are being trained up can actually work locally, and that the syllabus is consistent with the local demand in terms of what the jobs availability. So again, that's really important in terms of the education within our local area. In addition to that, the finances for that, the city deal, we may have read in the local press for Oxfordshire, Oxford and Oxfordshire has secured some £55 million towards infrastructure, particularly road schemes, of which we've got £22 million within the Science Vale area. Again, that's a really important recognition that we secured that money. So this infrastructure will be put in place to support the housing and the local economy. Lastly then, I'm just going to finish off with that plan again, recognising the importance and the balance between housing, employment and infrastructure. Well, that infrastructure, whether it's roads, whether it's schools and education, whether it's about affordable housing, there's a whole mixture of things that are really important to support together and work together to make sure we provide sustainable communities for you and I to live and work and be very happy in, hopefully. Okay, I hope you found that helpful. I think we'll take questions probably at the end. Thank you.